Hey, what's up, man? I wanted to do a quick video response to your video about how Undertaker needs to finally lose his streak at WrestleMania this year. Um, I completely agree with you. He's been doing it long enough, and he has the 18-0 streak. You know, and he's to the point in his career where he is a legit legend. You know what I mean? Everyone knows Undertaker. He's getting up to the ranks, or he is up to the ranks to me of Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. You know what I mean? Ric Flair says he's a wrestling god. You know, also Undertaker you could consider a wrestling god, and I kind of give a little more respect to Undertaker just because he has stayed with WWE the whole time. You know what I mean? Other guys like Hulk Hogan and like Ric Flair, went from like WWE to WCW back to WWE to TNA. You know what I mean? It was they went where I guess where the money was or where they were getting the best paycheck. And I think Undertaker he's stuck with WWE, through thick and thin. He was always with WWE, and I respect that. But anyway, I definitely think he needs to lose it this year. Finally go 18-1. I know a lot of people want to see him go 19-0 or 20-0, but with his injury to his shoulder or whatever, I don't want him to turn into like say a Mick Foley. I mean, no offense to Mick Foley. I love Mick Foley. But I mean, the poor guy, he's so battered and beaten that, he can barely get down and play with his kids. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't want Undertaker to be like that. Um, go out while you're on top. You know, even if you lose your streak, 18-1, he's still on top. He's still uh, one of the greatest WWE superstars of all time. Um, you know, so I mean, he doesn't need to retire with a perfect record. Um, and as for the match against Triple H, I know they're kind of ignoring their past match at WrestleMania. But whatever. I can get past that. WWE does stupid shit like that all the time. But anyway, I think it's gonna be a great match, and I think Triple H is the last person that people could really see uh, beating Undertaker's streak. You know what I mean? And both of them are just the best in WWE so far to me. Um, you know, they both every single match give the fans 100, no, not even 100, like 200%. They give everything they have every match. I can't remember the last match I've seen or any match that I've seen with Undertaker or Triple H where they half-assed it. You know what I mean? Um, they go out there and they give it all they got. Um, and they are. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Besides Cena, but whatever, they're the two superstars in the WWE left that really genuinely love the WWE. You know what I mean? The WWE is their life. You know what I mean? Even after they both retire, they're still gonna be like working with the WWE. They always they are like the faces of WWE. You know what I mean? Um, they're always supporting the WWE. Uh, they always, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying. I don't want to really go into much into that. You know, I don't want to get off track, but I mean, um, I think this is going to be a great match, though. And you know, I think it'll if if the if the rumors are true that the PG era is going away at WrestleMania. I don't know if it is, but it's been pretty much since the end of the Attitude Era. And I think this is kind of symbolic because besides Kane, Undertaker and Triple H are really the only superstars left from the Attitude Era. So it's kind of like symbolic, you know. They're going out. Hopefully, you understand what I'm saying. But you know, it's just I think it's the only way they could really do this match. There's no way they could put anybody else in with Undertaker and have it be a good match. Um, you know, you can't do Undertaker versus Cena. You can't do Undertaker versus Kane again because we've seen that so many times. They've overdone that. I can honestly say they've overdone Undertaker versus Kane. Um, and both superstars, Triple H and Undertaker, I don't see how they can go much farther in the WWE. And why I say that is because they both, excuse me, have done everything in the WWE. You know what I mean? You know, uh, they've held all the major titles. Um, they, there's hardly anything that you could say they haven't done. You know what I mean? They've both revolutionized WWE. They've both led major factions in the WWE. Undertaker with the Ministry of Darkness, and Triple H with DX. You know, it's just this is truly the only way that WWE can uh, end the Undertaker streak. Which, like I said, they have to do, or the Undertaker's just gonna be too hurt to do anything else. You know, he's just gonna be running himself ragged. And you know, to everyone who wants him to keep going, just because they don't want to, they, I think, I think that all these fans are saying they want 19-0 or they want 20-0, just because I think they're afraid that to lose the Undertaker. And I think that um, Undertaker is one of those superstars that you're never gonna lose him. I think even after he retires from wrestling, I think he'll still kind of stay with the WWE. You know, doing stuff with them still. At least I hope he does. You know, he doesn't have to perform in ring. You know what I mean? He can do other stuff, whatever. You know, like for example, like you know, uh, a legend like Sergeant Slaughter, he still does stuff with the WWE. You know what I mean? He doesn't wrestle anymore. So you know, it's not like you're gonna lose Undertaker and like never see him again. Um, but yeah, for every legend, you know, there has to be a point where they say, okay, hang up their boots and you know walk away from the ring. Uh, for example, you know, you have to be able to know when enough is enough. And you know, the fans may want one more and one more and one more, but if you keep giving the fans one more match, it's always going to be one more match. You know, they're going to say one more match, and you know, soon enough one more match turns into five more matches or 10 more matches, and that's just not good for his health with his shoulder. And, with his age, it's just gonna add more injuries, which is gonna put him in worse shape. So this is really the best time for him to get out of the in-ring competition, at least. But yeah, I'm kind of rambling now, but that's my opinion on it. I think it's definitely a good time for him to go. I'll be sad to see him go, because Triple H and Undertaker are two of my favorite wrestlers of all time in the WWE. But when it's time to go, it's time to go. But yeah, all right. See ya.